When you think of Goku, which version of him comes to mind? I assume most of you thought Z Goku, maybe GT Goku, or even Kid Goku from OG Dragon Ball, but one version of him that doesn't seem to get as much credit as Dragon Ball Super Goku. No, not this one, I mean that one. DBS Manga Goku was different gravy compared to his anime counterpart, and I can't lie, his attitude throughout the story potentially rivals the coldness and maturity of Z Goku. So let's begin by going through the manga one arc at a time. It starts off with Trunks returning to the present timeline, where in both continuities, Goku ends up sparring with him before their visit to the future, with the Half Saiyan Super Saiyan 2 being as strong as Goku Super Saiyan 3. The difference in the manga though is that Goku actually revved up to Super Saiyan God, one-shotting Trunks with no remorse whatsoever. And what's so vile about this is that he did that right in front of Vegeta. You cannot do that to Trunks, only the prince has the rights to beat up his son. Anywho, once Trunks tells him that Black is way stronger, I love how Goku understands the threat cannot be toyed with, and on numerous occasions he's hell-bent on wiping out Black from the map instead of itching for another fight. Also, this is proven by Goku not going to Universe 10 to fight Zamasu, which meant the Kai chose to switch bodies with him specifically solely from watching the battle with Hit and Godtube. Once they arrive at the future, we get to this infamous scene where Goku seems to have never kissed Chi-Chi before. But let me clear this up, it's meant to be a joke based on Goku and Chi-Chi being an old-fashioned couple, and in Japanese culture, old couples don't traditionally kiss in public. So basically, it's just Goku being unfamiliar with Trunks kissing Mai out in the open rather than kissing in general. Goku's opponents have far exceeded just his multiverse. It's now the English translation throwing hands with him by making the joke look worse than it was and turning the Western audience against him. Back to it, everyone already knows that Black is Zamasu, and at the start, Vegeta was pulverizing a Super Saiyan Goku Black using his blue form. However, Trunks is anxious of the deity's transformation being stronger than ever, advising to finish off the Kai this instant. You know what Goku does? He genuinely demands Vegeta to skip his turn and defeat Black already. I've already said this on my first ever video, but we need more of this version of Goku, and to this day I still think both DBS Anime and Z Goku would not say this with how he wanted to spare both Frieza and Vegeta's lives. A majority of comments on that vid however had pointed out that Z Goku would say that since he ordered for Gohan to kill Cell. So let me nip this bud real quick. 1. Gohan was the only one on the planet who had the power to actually beat the android. If Goku was stronger, it's possible he'd let Cell power up to 100% like he did for Frieza. This contrasts with the current situation where Manga Goku would assumingly fold Black like Origami 2, as he's equal to Vegeta but still goes out his way to follow Trunks' wishes. 2. Z Goku had already scrapped Cell beforehand in one of the most stunningly animated fights by this point, even when he knew he had no chance whilst a stronger Gohan was available on the Z Fighters bench. Okay, now guess how many times the Saiyan fought Black in the manga? Yes, Goku did not box with Black once in this arc. The doppelganger got deep fried by the prince so badly that Goku, the guy that loves fighting, was put off challenging him. That's the no-nonsense kind of attitude I love about Goku, which you don't see often in modern Dragon Ball. The person Goku chose to violate, however, was the immortal Zamasu. On their first encounter, the Saiyan dominated the 1v1, reflecting a street light through the Kai's torso, and was so devious that he dropped from blue to regular Super Saiyan, having the audacity to order him for the restoration of Trunks' Earth. He should not have underestimated the Kai though, cause Goku was getting slapped around like an Asian child with a 99% test score once Zamasu began using his Kai techniques. Even though the deity admitted he was flat out weaker, Goku was so desperate for redemption in the second leg of the tie that, no word of a lie, he operated the time machine on his own to return to the present. Oh lord, the Saiyan was so triggered at the loss that his brain cells overheated in the efforts for a retry. I don't want to sound like I'm slandering Z Goku, but look at me dead in the eye. Would he really be able to work a time machine? Anywho, Goku eventually returns for the rematch, beginning with the Mafuba on Zamasu, but the Kai was able to escape the jar since Goku took a coupon instead of the actual seal. Even I must admit it's an L on Goku's part, but to be fair, mistaking something for the seal is a bit more plausible than forgetting it entirely. This probably suited Goku better though, cause he destroyed Zamasu physically by sliding him across the granite and practicing combo strings with his body, but also emotionally, cause he not only tells the Kai that God is more than enough to defeat him, he also says he's weaker than even Trunks, affirming the Zero Mortals plan won't be accomplished by a bum like him. His words cut so deep into Zamasu that his merged version was obligated to ask who's weaker than Trunks now. But honestly, just take your loss. Having to fuse with another man so you could conjure up a response to Goku speaks volumes. Look, the merge was this close to failing as well, cause Goku was proactive in tossing a ki blast at the deities the minute he saw Black change the ear of his Potara. As always, Goku demonstrated his battle IQ at the arc's climax by sealing Blue's overwhelming power within himself to fight at 100% continuously. This meant the Saiyan had completed Super Saiyan Blue, which is such a cool concept in my opinion, but I'm still unsure if I prefer it to Blue Kaioken. Perfecting the form allowed Goku to go toe to toe with Zamasu, forcing the deity to take off his clothes, looking as shredded as the Saiyan himself. And if that didn't hype you up, Goku out of nowhere pulls out the Hakai to erase the god. Zamasu started resembling a sliced pear, which very nearly made the Hakai a success. If it weren't for Mai being grabbed into another portal and shoved in front of Goku to stop the erasure process. I've waffled so much about this arc particularly, but what can I say? Goku's character was a walking dub throughout, from his demeanor, his roasting, and his skills as a martial artist. I'll be blunt, Goku's character was at its lowest in this arc with his focus on pure strength as a means to beat Jiren. Each one of his teachers told him it's not the way to go about things, and this got so bad that Roshi had to intervene, reminding him of how to be a martial artist by using an imitation of a certain divine technique. I do like how the manga executed UI Sign's debut though, where Goku affirms he's a student of the Turtle School, which honestly makes more sense than getting cooked by your own spirit bomb, even at the cost of forgetting the advice of his previous mentors. Also, one line that really puts a smile on my face is when Goku describes the removal of unnecessary emotions, explaining that his heart remains as calm as the gentle streams of Mount Paozu. Come on, I can't be the only one thinking that simile was nothing short of beautiful. Even Ultra Instinct was squeaky clean in the manga. Goku had plunged his limbs so deep into Jiren's torso to the point where the Pride Trooper's blood pressure was nearly as high as his power level. However, manga Jiren eventually countered Goku's Ultra Instinct with sheer determination, and unlike in the anime, the Pride Trooper successfully knocked the form out of Goku on his own. I personally don't mind their battle being not as one-sided, since the ability requires proper mastery for the Saiyan to fully rely on it, which was fantastically done during the Moro arc. Before I forget, for the people saying, actually, Goku put the multiverse in danger by reminding the Zenos of the tournament. The Omni Kings were gonna erase everyone from the get-go until Goku inadvertently gave the universes a lifeline if they won. Even so, the Saiyan was moments from asking the deities to backtrack from their battle royale idea, considering the billions of innocents subject to eradication. However, Whis recommended not to try it because the Omni Kings may take offense and erase Goku on the spot. Now then, let's move on to what I call the peak of Dragon Ball Super. Goku really shines in the latter half on Earth, whereas the Namek portion focuses more on the glorious Prince Vegeta. When Goku returns from his training with Meris, he gets to work peppering Sagambo at such high velocity that no one's able to see him or even sense his ki. Some people say the arc's a rehash of the Cell Saga, but one thing that really comes full circle is his relationship with Gohan, where Goku is in tune with his son's feelings and apologizes for making the Half Saiyan fight again. Goku already knew this during the Tournament of Powers recruitment phase, but to say it directly to Gohan is just pure poetry. This moment simply adds to the plethora of reasons proving why Goku is a good father. Anyway, we must give Manga Goku his flowers, cause Blue finally looked unstoppable with how he manhandled Sagambo. Look how Goku full on punctured the convict's liver and got him posing like LeBron with that beautiful kick. Honestly, the satisfaction from this beatdown nearly erased my memories of all the times Blue got humbled. As much as I would love to talk about UI Sign vs Moro, in the end he got destroyed since the ability can't reach its full potential when relying on pure power alone. This paled in comparison to when Moro tanked an instant transmission Kamehameha at the cost of his arm, but in one of the most diabolical scenes, Moro strolled towards the Saiyan just to regrow his arm through Goku's chest. The Tyrant had no need to do that, he could have regenerated like a regular villain, but no, Moro was intent on raising his kill count. With that said, Goku's comeback was all the more sweeter when he eventually tapped into perfected Ultra Instinct. This was unlocked by Meris' sacrifice, doing so for the greater good of the universe, where for once an angel craved for justice rather than simply being a spectator. Not gonna lie, their friendship over the course of the arc is underrated, especially the conversation Meris remembered about how both Goku and the Galactic Patrol reform villains. And what ties this scene together is that the Saiyan initially boils in rage at the loss of his friend, but takes the moment to inhale a breath of fresh air, calming himself down. Remaining tranquil to achieve a new state of power is foreign to Dragon Ball. Normally anger is the catalyst for all these transformations, so seeing quite the opposite of this trope makes this death hit so much harder. This concept was also foreshadowed during Goku's training, when Meris explains the fundamental of Ultra Instinct as achieving self-control in the face of a jarring shock to his emotions, putting the final cherry on top. Anyway, the battle between Goku and Moro was utter annihilation. The Saiyan's footsteps alone had the Devourer trembling in fear. Moro pleaded for him to stay back, but Goku's only desire was to save his precious home, smacking the Tyrant into a mountain. We could discuss the multitude of disrespect, such as Goku parrying Moro's punches without bothering to so as much glance his way, or even when the Saiyan immobilized him with the Godbind to dish out a gut punch so vile, it blasted Moro off the space in Team Rocket fashion, creating shock waves across the globe. However, the scene which sealed the deal for me is when Goku flicks a senzu bean at the Tyrant, promising to spare him if he never breaks out the galactic prison again. I totally get why some people hated Goku's choice here, but you must remember that the Saiyan's been mopping the floor with a full power Moro up till now according to Piccolo, so it's fair to assume the Devourer had no more tricks up his sleeve. Moving on, when Moro chomps in the senzu to restore his limbs, as you can guess, the Tyrant broke the promise, ready to pierce the Saiyan's chest exactly like before. But no joke, Goku's sheer strength caused Moro to break his arm on impact due to Ultra Instinct hardening his body automatically. Good lord, not even Doc McStuffins with all the equipment in the world can hope to fix that arm. You thought that was the worst of it? Cause upon Moro's betrayal, Goku flat out calls him a coward, squats to his level, reverted to base, and proceeds to ponder the age-old question, have you ever worked out?
Out of pocket for that shit. Way out of pocket. What do you gain from that?
Brother, first Zamasu, now Moro, have you realised Goku only violates when his opponent is severely weaker than him? If I was in Moro's shoes, I'd put myself back in prison without question, cause no way I want to be in a 5-mile radius of Dragon Ball's biggest violator. We'll swiftly move on from Moro copying Ultra Instinct and merging with the planet. I wonder who allowed that to happen. Definitely not Goku, right? Anyway, Oob donated his divine key as Kid Buu's reincarnation, enabling for Goku to return to Ultra Instinct again, but no word of a lie, it meant the Saiyan could create a whole Susanoo to hold Moro in place. I have no clue who taught him that, but mark my words, this will go insane once it's animated in 2077. Finally, thanks to the Susanoo, Goku shatters the last crystal on Moro's forehead, releasing Meris' abilities, which ends the Devourer's reign of tyranny. A pretty neat conclusion to the Moro arc, I must say. So now let's move on to the second of the manga exclusive arcs. Goku's development was truly sublime. For one thing that really sets him apart is that he overcame his fear of needles when helping Whis administer vitamins for the Oracle Fish. Honestly, you could argue he's on par with Z and GT Goku from this moment alone. Furthermore, Ultra Instinct's progression is one of the highlights of this arc. Thanks to Meris's training, the Saiyan's now able to tap into perfected Ultra Instinct at will. However, you're likely wondering how he could get any stronger, maybe find a way to reach Super Saiyan 100. Nope, Whis explains that the next step for Goku is to develop his own style of the divine technique instead of mimicking the angels. I kind of like this because Goku's been spamming Control C for the longest time, such as the Kamehameha or the Solar Flare, so for Whis to encourage him to do his own thing really puts Goku out of his comfort zone. The next goal that Angel proposed is to stop equating Ultra Instinct with transformation, so instead of striving for a new form, Goku's mission is to master it to the point where he can even use the technique in base, resembling an angel that always has it switched on. This principle is applied during Goku's first encounter against Granolah, where the Saiyan used God and Blue in conjunction with the divine ability to evade the Cerulean's attacks. However, once Granolah strikes his vitals, Goku is forced to use his trump card, and like his battle of Moro, he got to humbling. The Saiyan protested against Granolah's use of AI, elbowing him into the fauna, but also froze the Cerulean mid-strike, having the nerve to put a grown man in timeout up above. Goku then sprayed air punches at Granolah, ricocheting him across the battlefield, and would have won if it weren't for the Cerulean using his clone to stall for time so he could deal the finishing blow. I still don't get how Goku even lost. Weren't the issues relating to UI's accuracy fall-off resolved in the previous arc? We then jump ahead to when Gas became the universe's strongest. Since he can utilize any ability thanks to the wish, Goku challenges Vegeta, testing if he can really use instant transmission to its fullest. Gas scoffs at the Saiyan's technique being superior to his, but Goku explains only he had the capability to teleport to this planet due to mastering the move from years of experience. The pair proceed their scrap whilst teleporting from planet to planet across the entire universe, and I love how you can tell Goku is the superior user because Gas lacks the spatial awareness of teleportation, like when he's dumped in mud by the true strongest Monarcha, or when he took a whole bubble bath of the Galactic King. The Saiyan eventually teleports to Whis and asks for him to accompany Gas. Before returning to each planet he's visited in reverse order so he could arrive back on Serial. Gas realised he got cooked in the instant transmission department, prompting Whis to share the location of Serial, and this forced Vegeta to blast through space for a whopping 20 minutes since the planet is too far away for him to warp directly. Once Goku gets to Granolah's house, Minato reveals the scouter belonging to Bardock containing an audio log. Oatmeal rewires it for the audio to start playing, and the minute that happens, some of our wishes came true, cause Goku finally remembered his parents from when he was an infant just from hearing the words "stay alive," which Bardock said before sending his son to Earth. As a result, Goku now understands his own Saiyan pride, explaining he didn't have faith in his own strength earlier, so Minato defines pride as accepting your own nature and sticking to your convictions, which is universal for any race out there. Goku understood this assignment during the final fight with Gas, where he accepts his carefree nature and toggles through his moveset for the transformation best for his power, true Ultra Instinct. This isn't a new form, by the way. In layman's terms, it's basically UI sign with the perk of using emotions, unlike the silver hair. Anywho, Goku made an expression so similar to Bardock that it triggered Gas's PTSD from 40 years ago, enabling for the Saiyan to serve a punch so strong it broke Vegeta's tusk. The power-up meant he had a slight edge over Gas, which is put to good use by firing a Kamehameha that charred his opponent. However, there's one moment I must point out where Gas kicks the Saiyan's face. Do you know how Goku responds? He counters by storing up and firing a mouth beam straight at Vegeta. Good lord, I know Goku is using his emotions, but he has never done that in his entire life. There's no shot the Saiyan's way of accepting his pride in combat is to replicate the mighty Nappa. To round it off, Granolah expends his life force in a beam to finish off Gas, but can't fire it if he wants to leave planet Serial unscathed. So Goku decides to summon the Susanoo again, grabbing Gas like a rubber duck and tosses him far into the atmosphere. Thanks to his contribution, Granolah can shoot shoot directly at the enemy in a beautiful double spread which blinds everyone in a radiant golden light, but in the end it worked out just fine to finally put down the heater. Overall, I think DBS Manga Goku's character is a great continuation from his Z variant, who actually keeps his maturity of an adult unlike the anime version. And as with all Gokus, this one cemented himself as a martial artist with how he perfected Super Saiyan Blue and his application of Ultra Instinct. Hopefully I was successful in giving you a new appreciation for arguably the most underrated version of Goku. And finally, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this entire video. Before I forget, if you want to see a more in-depth version of how Goku utterly embarrassed Moro, please click here.